I'm Stephen Koranda with Mississippi Public Broadcasting. Joining me today on Don't Lecture Me is author of Yazoo Blues, John Pritchard. John, thanks for joining me.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, this book is told by Junior Ray
Loveblood.
Exactly. The story is.
It's easy to boggle.
It shows how well prepared I am. I think.
Well, actually, you know, they are actual people named Loveblood and Youngblood all up and around here.
But it's told by Junior Ray Loveblood. How would you describe Junior Ray?
Junior Ray had very hard circumstances in his upbringing. He was poor, and his people came down from the hills and down into the eastern edge of the Delta in the northern part, and were sharecropping out there. And they lived in houses that had holes in them. I mean, the snow came in, and the Junior Ray would have gone to school back in the 40s barefooted in the winter, and he had only one shirt, one pair of pants, and he would have gone into the white school, which of course was a county school in those days, if the water were low enough so that the buses could get out there to him.
The book is actually told by Junior Ray,
yes.
Actually sort of dictated. Why did you choose that style?
Well, the thing is, Junior Ray was a character in a larger manuscript. I say larger, it wasn't War and Peace, it was only about 383 pages. And I had sent it all around. I've been sending stuff around since I was 18 years old. You know, I wrote a lot of bad stuff. This was equally as bad as all the rest. The manuscript wasn't very good, and so I kind of realized nothing was going to happen with it, and I said to myself one day, when I was getting older, I'm 70 and a half now, but this was when I was 57, and I thought it was the end. I said, Pritchard, you thought you were always going to write a big, beautiful book about the South, but apparently you're not, and certainly not going to get one published, so what are you going to do? And I said, well, perhaps I shan't write a big, beautiful book about the South. I'll write a small, not so beautiful book, and I have to do it fast. So I took Junior Ray out of that manuscript and let him tell the same story that I had been telling in there as the all-knowing narrator. And the voice worked. After that, I just sat and listened to him and let him tell it. And that was the first book, Junior Ray.
This is, of course, the second, and in this book, it's really weaving in and out of Junior Ray talking about the Yazoo Pass expedition, as well as some problematic love with an exotic dancer.
Yeah.
Why did you choose sort of, and there's a lot of other things mixed in there, why did you really choose that?
Well, I didn't really. It just accreted, sort of, you know. It just went on, and I just said, well, maybe I'll add this. The truth is, a little bit of Junior Ray goes a long way, which is one reason I left the first book at 150-something pages. I really meant to do that with this, but this book, the Yazoo Blues, is 100 pages longer. But I was going to write a separate book, and it was about the love affair between Mad Owens, James Madison Owens, and the Memphis naked dancer from Chula, Mississippi, Money Scatters, who had been a Memphis policewoman, but who found out she could do more for mankind in a G-string than she could with a pistol on her hip. And it was going to be a separate book, and I was going to call it Organ Music. But it didn't, I couldn't pull it off as a second book, so I just threw it in. And it worked, you know, it worked fine. You know, Alfred Hitchcock called the thing that makes things work when they really, I mean, just the thing that can make something work, they called it the MacGuffin, and I refer to that in the story, actually.
Speaking of some of the topics of the book, including the exotic dancer or the naked dancer,
yeah,
as you would say.
N-E-K-K-I-D, yeah.
In some respects, Junior Ray is just fantastically profane.
Oh, yeah.
What is it about the character that that kind of brings that out?
What? Oh, that makes him profane? Well, I did it on purpose because when I started at first in the first book, Junior Ray, I had a stock Southern deputy sheriff, and I said, well, I mean, I just don't want to have just another stock Southern deputy sheriff. The world needs that like it needs another credit card. So I said, how can I make him distinctive? And I remembered 2 or 3 people that I'd known growing up and been close around who were like that, whose speech was peppered with profanity. And you'll notice that the profanity in the books is written phonetically, not orthographically correct, because it's not meant for shock value, it's just for rhythm.
And about that sort of conversational writing style and the actual speaking of the book, how does that offer you any challenges as a writer?
Well, it makes it easier for me. it also, I mean, I'm not sure how well I could pull off being an omniscient narrator, a third person. I'd have to have a persona of some sort, truly, I think so. You know, just like Jonathan Swift has a persona in A Modest Proposal. It's really not Jonathan Swift's voice, but it's, of course, Jonathan Swift writing it, but he adopts, he makes himself a character. I would have to do that.
This book is a mix of reality, real events, some real historical things, but also a lot of fiction. How did you go about sort of putting that all together?
Well, that wasn't hard either, really, because it meant that I didn't have to do serious research. You know, I'm not a scholar, and but there is research in there, and there's material from the Library of Congress's official records of the War of the Rebellion in there. As Junior Ray says, the Library of Congress. He becomes fascinated with a little-known debacle that the North tried, a real fiasco. They wanted to come down the Yazoo system by starting in, blowing the levee across from Helena in February of 1863, coming through what had been a little bayou into Moon Lake, across Moon Lake, and out 14 miles, 12 or 14 miles to the Coldwater River. Coldwater goes and merges with the Tallahatchie. The Tallahatchie and the Allabusha come together around Greenwood and become the Yazoo, and that comes out right at Vicksburg. So they wanted to get in there and come in behind Vicksburg and try to bring that thing down there to an end at the time. The thing about it was, what people in that area don't know is this, is that on Moon Lake, while they were waiting to clear that 12 or 14 miles that had been obstructed by the few planters that were out there and some slaves, there would have been on Moon Lake 6,000 in Tunica County. Excuse me, I'm sorry, it would be Coahoma County. Moon Lake is in Coahoma County. My apologies. There would have been 6,000 Northern soldiers and sailors. That's an incredible number. The water was so high after the levees were blown, after the levee was blown in several places, that there was hardly any shoreline. So there was enough water to float across what had been a field down there in many cases. There would have been those 6,000 soldiers and sailors from the north. There was a flotilla that included 2 ironclads, the Chillicothe and the Baron de Kalb, 6 tin-clads, which were more lightly armored, but were 200 feet long and 50 feet across in the beam. And then there were 12 to 22 light transports. There's a varying report on that, but I think it was probably about 12 light transports, 2 or 3 coal barges, and other craft too. But that flotilla would have gone in that winding bayou there, the Yazoo Pass, over to the Coldwater. And I mean, imagine that, going down the Coldwater and the Tallahatchie, and it, well, as a fictional character, O.N.G. Brainsong, had said, the whole mighty pageantry of it all. And Junior Ray became fascinated with that one thing about the Civil War, and decided he decided that, not that he would become an historian, but decided that he is an historian. And he says, I have a Xerox to prove it.
You mentioned that how interested Junior Ray was in this, but you get so animated yourself. Are you fascinated with it as well?
I'm Junior Ray. And I mean, I'm Junior Ray. I'm the psychotic and this hiding in the silo in the first book. I'm Mad Owens, maybe even the Naked Dancer. You know, so.
As a Mississippi Delta native, what is it about the area that made you want to focus now? You're a second book in that area.
Oh, well, you know, that's the area that made me. And I think that so many writers are like that. I mean, we write about, well, you know, I suppose looking at all these books, the people who wrote them for varying reasons or different reasons. But there's certainly a large chunk out there in the writer population that does it because they can't help it. I mean, they just have to do it. It's a compulsion. And I've had the compulsion ever since I suppose from the time I was 17. But it took me until I was 65 to ever get a publishing contract. I just sort of didn't stop. And somehow Junior Ray worked. And that didn't mean that the first few submissions were, I mean, I sent Junior Ray around, and in one case it came back almost in the same day. People were so horrified. But then I got it. And if I can outwit the actuaries, I have several more books. They won't all be Junior Ray books, but.
That was actually my next question. Is there going to be more from Junior Ray? You
There'll,
mentioned he's
one
yourself.
More.
Do you have yourself many stories to bring out?
There's one more. It's called Sailing to Alluvium, you know, taking off from sailing to Byzantium. And there will be more notebooks of Leland Shaw and that, and in the third book, Junior Ray becomes a detective to try to find out where the death threats are coming from, and he'll find out it comes from a lethal sorority of Southern women who are sworn to protect the image of Southern manhood, and they don't want people out and about thinking that Southern men are psychotic and running around the county at night, or that they are profane like Junior Ray. But they're more worried about the image of Southern man as a weak psychotic, or even a strong psychotic. but maybe being a Southerner is close to psychosis. I'm not sure.
Well, we definitely look forward to that. Thank you, John Pritchard, author of Yazoo Blues.
Thank you. I had a great time.